You know, a big part of why I wanted to come out here is because I do want to take a more public kind of track as a LGBTQ advocate. And on the road to being more public, I want to do a public announcement about my sexuality. I've never really stood up and said, I'm gay. Obviously, with us being together, anything that I do is going to impact you with people saying, wait a minute, if Greg is this LGBTQ advocate, like, who's he dating?
So you're saying, like, they're going to want to know the T, regardless?
Correct.
Hey, everyone, it's Anthony Allen Ramos. All right, each week on E's Mathis Family Matters, we get to see Judge Greg Mathis and his family readjust to life back in Los Angeles. His son, Greg Jr., and his partner, Elliott, have been out to friends and family for a while. But this week's episode, we're going to see the two of them take it to the next level and open up to the rest of the world with a little help from yours truly. Today, I'm so excited to be chatting with both Greg Sr. and Greg Jr. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Well, Greg Sr., it's very nice to chat with you. I obviously have had many conversations with your son, but I think this storyline about seeing Greg and Elliott want to share their truth more publicly is such a wonderful opportunity for Black families to come together and support and just start important conversations. And I just love seeing the way that you and your family support your son. How excited are you to kind of see this storyline kind of happen this week on the show?
Yes, I love it. The fact is, we've known Greg was gay since he was a teenager, and I thought his colleagues, peers, and friends in DC knew, and because it's such a gay-friendly town. And so it troubles me to know that all these years that I thought he was living his life free of restriction regarding his sexual identity, it troubled me to know that he hasn't been. And so that really has motivated me to fight more against the bigotry of and discrimination against the LGBTQ community. Not only because that's who I am as a fighter for justice, whether it's Black folks, whether it's women, whether it's poor whites in Appalachia, I'm always fighting for equal justice, and there's no better fight than that for my son.
Greg Jr., what is it like for you? I mean, obviously, you've had a very supportive family, a very supportive dad, much to the surprise of some of his more conservative followers. What's it like to have that support and to know that he's got your back on this?
It means a lot because, it's a vulnerable experience opening up yourself to the world, and particularly when it's an issue that a lot of people have strong feelings on. And there's a lot of bigots out there that unfortunately do have strong thoughts about the whole, towards the LGBTQ community. And so opening up both my life, but also Elliott's life, who was not out of the closet to, most of his friends either. It was a big step, but I will say it feels really good now to have done it, and to be on that other side of trying to help other people now is more important than any fears I may have had. And what I appreciate and what you'll see on the show is that my dad really instilled that confidence in me too, to say, no, don't worry about how this is going to impact me or, your family. This is more important than that. It's more important for you to be yourself, and it's more important for you to inspire people that they can do the same, and to fight for people that can't fight for themselves, which was really, really compelling for me.
Greg Sr., I think it is so wonderful and so important that we are seeing Black families have these conversations and support their LGBTQ kids, because we know at GLAAD, there is still so much work that needs to be done and conversations that need to be had to really break down the barriers and the stigma. What is it you hope that anyone that might just be tuning into your show, because it is a lot of fun, they might be fans of yours, and then they may see this really important storyline with Greg Jr. What do you hope that they take away from that?
I hope that they understand that their feelings, whatever they're based on, is being framed as is framing them as a bigot. Whatever, whether it's some religious debate that has nothing to do with what Christ represented, that is love and justice, whether it's some super macho homophobic attitude that many of our Black men have, those things I want to work on. I am not afraid to say that I think that the Black community, particularly in the church, and Black men have disproportionately the highest level of homophobia in the country. Quite frankly, I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid. So that's why I stand with my son. I'm not afraid. And to that extent, I think it is incumbent upon us. Like I say to white folks who want to fight racism, I say, well, fight it. Talk to your buddies who are racist. And so in this sense, we're going to fight homophobia and injustice against the LGBTQ community by talking to our people.
That's right. Greg Jr., do you want to add anything onto that? Because I mean, it's so great to, you know, like we've talked about it before, your dad has a huge fan base, but a lot of them tend to be, you know, more conservative, and might be some of those people that need to have a change in their hearts and a change in their minds. You know, what's it like for you to kind of hear him say all that stuff?
I mean, it means the world to me, and I think it's a true statement. I think when you look at the Black community, you know, it can skew towards conservative in certain aspects. And one of the cradles and one of the important areas of community in the Black community is the church, which hasn't always been on the right side of this particular issue. And one of the things I always say is, hey, you know, your issue is not with me. I was born the way I was. God created me the way I was, and I love who I was, but I didn't create myself. God created me. So if you have an issue with me, you can take that issue up with God on your judgment day. Tell him that you got a problem with it, because I didn't create me. I love me, but I didn't create me. So take it up with God.
Amen to that, right? I mean, and Greg Sr., I think
That's right.
It's so important because at GLAAD, we're doing a lot of work in the space of faith. We're trying to break down this idea that you can't be a person of faith and either be of the LGBTQ community or support the LGBTQ community. You, obviously, as a religious man, what would you want to say about that? Because I think it's such an important topic to have, especially when it comes to Black families.
Well, let me be clear. I am challenging Black Christendom, if you will, to request those leadership in the various denominations, request that their pastors and whomever stop gay bashing, period, and do not focus anymore on fornication, adultery, those other what they believe to be sexual sins, will focus equally. And so that's been my encouragement, and I know they won't. They're going to leave alone altogether, because they want to focus on adultery and fornication. They won't have any members the next week. So I say that to say that's how I challenge them. In fact, the largest Black denomination in the world, I spoke with the presiding bishop about this, specifically about how his sermons hurt my son, and 30 years ago. And I encouraged him to present a new approach of love and justice. And he said he would advise his clergy to do so. And he has over 100,000 clergymen under the umbrella of the denomination. And so I think we're having an impact already in at least changing the narrative in which same-sex is viewed, or sexual identity is viewed in the church.
And I'll add on to that, because I actually had a couple pretty big pastors text me after they saw one of the original episodes of our show, where I talked about going to church and feeling like I was ostracized and going home and trying to pray the gay away. And they texted me and apologized and said that it was a learning experience for them. Because I think at the end of the day, Christianity, Jesus is about love, you know? And like I said earlier, if you got a problem with how God made me, I didn't choose to be gay, you got to take it up with him, not me.
Greg Sr., I mean, your son is very well-spoken on this topic. What's it like for you to see him, you know, be in this, you know, really great space of, you know, being self-assured of who he is, accepting who he is?
I love it. I love it. And I'm just smiling all while he speaks of the fight and take it up with God. That sounds so good. I'm almost tempted to say I'm gay just so I can be able to give that response. I love
I saw your face when I said that. I said, oh, he's going to steal my line.
That's right. Without a doubt, that's exactly what's going to happen.
That's a good one. Greg Jr., but you know, as I sit and talk to the two of you, you come from a very well-known family. You're more used to the life in the spotlight. Your partner, Elliott, not so much. So this idea of what we're going to see in this episode, where the two of you come together and decide that you want to kind of open up, come out more publicly, it's a little bit of a tougher road for him. Tell me a little bit about how the two of you navigated it, because that's kind of where I came in and kind of gave you some ideas of how you could, you know, make something that was impactful, but also authentic to who you are.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely tough, Anthony. And I would tell you, because Elliott is already more of an introvert. So you take that and put it on top of the whole thought of coming out to the entire world when you haven't even come out to most of your friends. It was tough. It was tough shooting a lot of those scenes. And I've already seen some people asking like, well, wait a minute, like you were shooting these scenes and he knew he was on the reality show. So how is he worried about coming out? But we weren't out at the time that we were shooting those scenes. And I think it was a very real conversation of does he want to continue with the show and, you know, continue to be, does he want his life to be televised in this way? And even beyond that, okay, if I'm going to be outspoken about this issue and out in public about this issue, is this something that he wants to join me in, or does he want to kind of stand back in the shadows and kind of be my mysterious boyfriend, or maybe not my boyfriend at all if it's, you know, if it gets to that point. So, I mean, that was emotional, and we had a lot of conversations both on and off camera, but and you'll see a lot of that take place in this upcoming episode, which I think is a very real experience that a lot of LGBTQ individuals go through. You'll have couples where one couple is out and able to, you know, live their life authentically, and the other couple is still on that, and the other person is still on that journey of figuring out how they can get to that place of comfort and confidence and live their true authentic life. And you know, everybody has their own journey, and I think it's special that we were able to kind of show a little bit of that in our show.
So important. Greg Sr., you know, obviously the video, the coming out video that they shared on social media came out, and this series is going to see your family's reaction to it in real time, and then see your family reacting to the way the rest of the world is reacting. So what was it like to see that moment when they finally hit send and it's out there for the rest of the world?
Yes, it was a very proud moment for me. I think that by now you can hear you can kind of get my personality and understand that I love a good fight for justice, which is why I went into law. And so what that made me smile, because it expressed courage in his fight for justice. That's how I looked at it. You know, I'm not so much focused on the relationship factor, the religious factor, because as we know, Jesus never mentioned anything about gay. So I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing on the fight for equality, for against injustice. And so I was so proud, because that showed that the first step of courage is that he's going to let everybody know. And then after he lets everybody know, depending on how they take it, that dad is coming for him.
That's good. That's good. See, you got to have allies. I love that. Well, listen, I mean, this was a big step. What's the next big step? I mean, could there be a wedding? What's the reaction to me just saying that? We ready for that or not? Not yet, maybe?
You know, I'm gonna tell people to tune in and find out. How about that?
Hey, I mean, if that's not a tease, I don't know what is. But listen, like I said, I think this show is so fun. It's so funny, but also, like I said, it's bringing to the forefront really impactful, important conversations about LGBTQ people, about Black communities. So thank you for telling your story, both of you, obviously. And just a reminder, everyone, you can find out what happens on this episode and more. Mathis Family Matters, new episode Sunday night at 10 on E!